Spoiler warning, this video will contain spoilers for Inside Out 2. Proceed at your own risk. In Pixar's Inside Out 2, anxiety acts like her moves against the original emotions was something unfortunate and unplanned. That it was just something she had to do in the best interest of Riley. But upon closer inspection, it becomes pretty clear that this is simply not the case, and anxiety actually arrived at headquarters prepared for a full hostile takeover, and her plan was actually quite brilliant. Early on in Inside Out 2, we get introduced to a new set of emotions in envy, embarrassment, ennui, and of course, anxiety. The movie starts out with the impression that this is purely an expansion of the team. Instead of just the 5 core emotions running the show, now there's 9 available to lend a hand and navigate Riley through her teenage years. It doesn't take long, however, for Joy to make a mistake, forcing anxiety to step in for the good of Riley and save the day. At least, that's what anxiety would want us to believe. But are we actually to believe that anxiety, who admits that her whole thing is making plans upon plans upon plans to prepare for any possible future, would not have planned ahead for what might happen when she got to headquarters? Would not have watched Joy and the others, known exactly how things were run, and decided ahead of time how she was going to respond to that system? Anxiety, at her core, is a planner, and it's clear she would have planned out her takeover long before arriving on the scene. One of the first times that we see this in action is when anxiety is proposing a plan to the group. She gets out her console computer and says, "My team has run the numbers," before explaining what Riley should do. But hold on, what team? We know the emotions don't each get a team to help them along. They function separately from the rest of Riley's system. We learn later, however, that anxiety had successfully recruited the imagination team to her cause, and they continue working for her after she takes over headquarters. Anxiety's comment that she has a team proves that the imagination team was working for her long before she even arrived at headquarters. And they weren't the only ones recruited ahead of time. When Riley's core emotions are being shipped off to her vault of secrets, they're being transported there by Riley's internal police force, who seem to have no issue whatsoever with the fact that they are carting off Riley's core emotional team. It's because they too are already on anxiety's team. And being similar to the demo crew at the beginning, they most likely kept the information that the expansion was coming away from headquarters on anxiety's orders. That way, the core 5 would have no idea what's coming, and they wouldn't be able to prepare for this possibility. Then, of course, there is the team that anxiety arrives with, who are clearly already on her side before sides are even needed. When anxiety decides to make her move, she says, "I was so looking forward to working with you." Then, without saying a word to embarrassment, he scoops up the prior emotions and incapacitates all of them. This is essentially an act of treason, but the smoothness with which the new emotions executed their sudden shift proves it was at least planned out ahead of time as a possibility. But I don't think all the new emotions were successfully brought on board. It appears at first that 5 old emotions are being joined by 4 new emotions. But that's not actually the case. In reality, the number of emotions in headquarters doubles. 5 old emotions are being joined by 5 new emotions. Nostalgia has arrived as well, the emotion that remembers with fondness things that have happened in the past. This emotion, however, is not allowed out very often. Whenever nostalgia starts to emerge from the back room, anxiety rushes over and forces her back in, telling her it's not her time yet. Anxiety clearly doesn't want nostalgia around, and this makes sense. Nostalgia would view the events that came before with fondness. So the idea of wiping away the past in favor of a completely new future is not something that nostalgia would embrace. Anxiety, therefore, needs nostalgia out of the way. So she tells her that despite coming up with all the rest of them, her time is actually later. Anxiety doesn't need to get rid of nostalgia. Anxiety just needs to wait. to wait until her takeover becomes the type of history that nostalgia can latch onto. Now, the thing to keep in mind when you're solving a crime is you're looking for motive, means, and opportunity. Creating a team of loyal followers are Anxiety's means, and her arrival at headquarters gave her the opportunity. But what is her motive? She admits to being a huge fan of Joy. Why would she turn against her? The answer is because she's actually not as big a fan of Joy as she makes out to be. From the very beginning, she is sowing the seeds of discontent, questioning Joy's decision-making in front of the others, saying things like, "That's not going to haunt us for the rest of our lives." And the reason for all of this actually goes back to that back room that Anxiety keeps pushing nostalgia into. On demo day, they say they're making more room in headquarters for the new emotions. But when they're done, it really doesn't look that much different than before they started. The main console room does not appear to be any bigger, and it appears to be a similar size to what we see in Riley's parents' minds, who would have gone through all of this before themselves. So, if the console room is not expanding, what is? The extra space promised by the demo crew is not in the main room, because we already know that the 5 core emotions are destined to remain the 5 emotions in charge. The extra space is actually in the back. New back rooms are being set up, where the secondary emotions, such as anxiety, are expected to settle coming out of puberty. That's why we don't see the extra emotions in the minds of the adults, except for the occasional brief glimpse of anxiety in each of her parents' minds. But anxiety doesn't have a chair at the table for either of them. Riley's anxiety knew her fate, that she was destined to be a secondary emotion, and she desired more. That is her motive. In the end, Anxiety's plan fooled Joy and the others, but we, the viewers, are a little more perceptive, and we could see that Anxiety's plan was actually plotted out long before she ever set foot in headquarters, and that the only thing that Anxiety failed to plan for was her own failure. I hope you enjoyed this theory. I loved Inside Out 2, and I'm thrilled it's doing so well in theaters right now. Now, before you go, my countdown to 500 subscribers continues. I'm currently, as of this recording, 36 subscribers away. So if you want to be a part of reaching that number, go ahead and click subscribe and watch that cool, colorful animation that pops up when you click it. When Inside Out 2's first trailer arrived, I made some predictions of what I thought was going to happen in this movie. And even though I didn't get everything right, I feel like I nailed a couple of the key pieces. So if you want to see for yourself how I did, go ahead and click the video on the right. Either way, thank you for watching.